So happy to see you all here this afternoon in Forest Row. Thank you so much for coming to support the crowdfunder for the Crossing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I thought I'd start off by giving you just a really little bitty talk about me personally, because this is my baby, so you can get an idea of where it came from. So, when I was at school, Mr. Gledel, the music teacher, suggested that I should sing in assembly, "They paved paradise and put up a parking lot," you know. So, you know, the lyrics of that totally got me. It was, you know, they put all the trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charge all the people $1.50 just to see them. You know, and it was like, what? Charging people to look at trees? Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They've paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Man, they took all the apples and sprayed them with DDT, and she's like, leave them. I don't mind if I got spots on my apples, and I feel exactly the same way. And that was in the 60s. That was lyrics from the 60s. What have we learned in that time? Now, I don't want to bring you all down, but, you know, we need to think about this. So that started me off. Also, my mother was a yogurt weaving compost maker, and I always had my nose in the compost heap with her. That was a really big influence. In my 20s, I was an actress, and I was a regular character in a medical drama called Medics, which we fondly used to refer to as Dicks, because in the sort of self-depreciating way that most performers seem to talk about themselves, like Stuart, who works for Knee-High, my husband, who works for Knee-High Theatre on occasion, refers to himself as a bunch of idiots. I think they call themselves a bunch of idiots, or a band of idiots, or, you know. Dicks. I played a doctor. But also very important people who are making people laugh and entertaining people and telling stories that are really important, that move us. So they are, you know, the entertainers are really, really important people. And I hope to have a little film to show you later on which will entertain you. I was playing a doctor, but really what I was doing was perpetuating the myth in people's front rooms at the 9 o'clock slot that we don't take responsibility for our own health. We give responsibility for our health to a doctor who then tells us to take lots of drugs often, when the biggest, or one of the third largest cause of death in the US is from pharmaceuticals. So yeah, I was never very happy playing a doctor in Medics. I didn't feel as though it was my thing. So I started going to lots of festivals, like the Big Green Gathering and other, go and stay in a field for a week, you know, be with people in the dark, share what you've got with each other, be careful of each other, look out for each other. You know, the Big Green Gathering was a massive influence on me, and it's there that I first saw leaflets for The Land and The Land magazine, and Chapter 7, The Land is Ours, which is a movement that encouraged people back to the land. So that was in my 20s. In my 30s, and through the medium of acting, the medium of entertaining, I met my amazing husband, Stuart, who is a constant support and source of love to me. And we had 2 delightful children. Children are our biggest teachers. They're just our biggest teachers, and my kids have taught me so much. And it was when I started to nurture them and want to bring them up the right way that I started to really, really look at our food systems and what I was giving them to eat. And it made me really question our industrial agricultural model and the food that it was giving us, because it certainly wasn't nourishing us and keeping us healthy as a family. We all had issues. We all still do have issues as a family that I think stem from the industrial agricultural, agrochemical model that we embrace in this country. So, yeah, started asking all these questions about the water, our health and food. In my 40s then, we began our journey towards better health and looking for better food systems, we rented out our house in London and left the big smoke to travel around Europe with our small children, a babe in arms and a 4-year-old, and we stayed in yurts working on organic farms around Europe. What an experience. I don't know if you know about the organization WOOF, Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. Started in the 70s, and now is a global movement offering people the opportunity to work for food and lodging in organic farms and smallholdings, and offering the hosts their help. And they learn at the same time as giving help to the hosts. We woofed for over a year, and now I'm a woof host, and I don't know what I would do without that support and help. And it's an amazing network that really helps people find out other ways of doing things. I can't recommend it highly enough. Woof UK. And there are national organizations all over the world. You can go and woof in Hawaii, in Japan, in Canada. Go and woof. So yeah, when we came back to England, because we realized that it was England that was the home of our mother tongue and the place that we came from, and it was the place where we wanted to try and get a foothold on the land. We found the crossing here in Forest Row, and we got drawn to Forest Row by a whole heap of invisible strings that I can't even go into the stories how we find ourselves here, but Forest Row is a magical place with some amazing people, and I really value being part of this community. So the crossing is about crossing over into a different way of thinking. The dominant narrative seems to be about fear, conflict, scarcity, pollution, extinction, all terribleness. That seems to be the dominant narrative. But actually, if we start to look, we can read other stories if we start to source other information from the mainstream media. And the new story that we need to be telling to challenge this dominant narrative is about cooperation, connectivity, unity, abundance, health. It's all good stuff. Positive thinking, possibilities, positive possibilities is what we need to be imagining to get things to happen. So it's with this new thinking that we launched ourselves into making the crossing a real asset to the community. Unity thinking, the whole, holistic land management. It's similar to the biodynamic concept of the farm as an organism. So I'll give you a bit of history about the crossing. We acquired it in 2010, late in 2010. In 2011, we set up the Coop Co-op, which is a groovy little group of people who come together to look after a flock of laying hens collectively. So it's 14 families, and each visits the flock once a fortnight. So you don't have the, daily commitment. You get to visit your flock once a fortnight, collect your eggs yourself, and the kids absolutely love it. And you get gold dust of the chicken doo-doo for your garden as well. We started that in 2011. 2012, we moved a container and a cabin onto the land, and we dug a borehole. In 2013, Bex and Bo arrived, 2 woofers from Australia. She's from England, he was from Australia, and they lived in the cabin for a whole year. And they started to open up the garden and keep an eye on the chickens that had been vandalized a few times, and started to be on the land and look after the land. We started to make a plan. We took the contours and started to think about where our water was coming from and how we were going to create a landscape which would be for regenerative agriculture that would feed as many people as possible whilst allowing biodiversity to thrive and feed the land, build soil, clean the water, clean the air. So we created swales on contour. That was in 2014. Swales are a ditch and a ridge along contour which collect the rainwater as it falls off. So this is fantastic catchment-sensitive farming where water doesn't just run off down the Medway and cause flooding downstream. It's captured on the landscape and is allowed to slowly sink in. So this is over an 8.5 acre site. And then at the very top on the plateau, we've got 50 raised beds where we started in 2015 a CSA, a Community Supported Agriculture Scheme. This means members of the community join the scheme and they take a share of the harvest. So they're not buying vegetables per se, they're buying into a share of the harvest. And we try and grow as wide a variety as possible, and then we share that harvest in a veg box scheme. We've currently got 14 members, and we're upping it to about 20, hopefully 25 by the end of this season, if we can sort out our polytunnel, which I'm sure we will after this crowdfunding campaign. We've introduced sheep onto the land to graze, and we've got some pigs that are working hard as our partners on the land to open up the land for us. They're cultivators. They're not just pigs for meat. They're cultivating the land and fertilizing the land and clearing some areas of weeds for us, and at the same time we'll benefit from the products, which are completely clean, free from biocides and pesticides and antibiotics. And they're fed sprouted beans and barley and all the waste vegetables from seasons. They're the best fed pigs in Christendom. And if anybody would like to join our pig club, then talk to us at the end. So in 2014, we also crowdfunded informally and barn raised a small wooden, well, some people wouldn't call it small, but it's a wooden dwelling, which also serves as an agricultural admin building and a space where we can do workshops and show people. We're a demonstration site for the Brighton Permaculture Trust, and we do workshops on biochar and all sorts of other interesting subjects to do with building soil. So it's a really useful building, and it serves as affordable accommodation for us as a family as we start this endeavour to try and grow food for local people that's affordable and free from pesticides and biocides of any description. As we moved in, we had prepared a very detailed business plan and a super duper planning application, I thought. I thought it was super duper. And we supplied it to the local planning authority saying, check this out. I know this isn't, the usual run-of-the-mill thing, but we think this is really valid and worthwhile because we've read through your planning policy documents in great detail, which have a great deal of reference to biodiversity and carbon emissions. And we really thought that we applied a lot of their planning policies to our planning application. But of course, it came back with a refusal in the same year, and we began the appeal process. We had gathered a lot of information, a lot of scientific information, to show them that, oh, I forgot to mention our biochar stove. This is quite an important part of the equation, actually. We are heating our dwelling with a stove that produces biochar. So it's a closed-loop energy system. We're growing the wood. Eventually, we'll be growing all the wood, but we grow the wood, we burn the wood, and the wood gives biochar, which is an amazing soil conditioner and improver. And we're working in the garden in a no-dig growing system, which is, I mean, I can't go into the details, I won't take too long, but it produces really superior food, which is nutrient-dense and doesn't need a lot of irrigation. So we supplied the council with all of this information and spoke of how we were encouraging people to come from international, from other countries to woof with us, and how local people could join us on every Tuesday to come to Tune In Tuesday, where from 10 till 2, we tend the land and then serve a really good lunch. And they weren't interested, basically. Not even remotely. So as we were preparing our hearing, our appeal, the council gave us 4 enforcement notices. They could have probably given us enforcement notices back in 2012 when we put a container in a cabin on the land. They probably could have given us enforcement notices when Bex and Bo were staying in the cabin. But they chose to give 4 enforcement notices just as we were going into our appeal process. When we'd studied the documents about the right to appeal, it stated that for each enforcement notice, it was required that you pay twice the original planning fee per enforcement notice if you wanted your appeal to be considered under Ground A, which was this needs to be looked at in much more detail. In the end, we got a hearing for the appeal purely because I'd ticked the box F on grounds for appeal, which was not really relevant. And actually, the planning inspector seemed mildly amused at the state of affairs and knew that it would fail. He knew that it would be dismissed. We could tell in the hearing that it was going to be dismissed. All of these experiences, and I have to say I've spent months going through all the planning papers, and months, literally months of my life, while I'm trying to be doing all of the regenerative agriculture work and engaging the community and feeding my children and just getting on with also the paleo coaching. I do nutritional coaching courses to try to help people generally. It's taken a great deal of effort and energy, and it all seemed to have been for nothing when the appeal was dismissed. So we got the news that the appeal was dismissed last May 2016. And once the appeal was dismissed, that meant the enforcement notices came into effect. So we were supposed to have everything removed from the site by November of last year. So for those 6 months, we had looming over our family the idea that we might have to remove everything from the site and find somewhere else to live and not have a business anymore and go and get a different job so that we could afford to pay a rental or whatever, It was a really, really traumatic experience, but somehow I managed to stay calm and pick up the phone and go, listen, this thing's happened, what do you think? And start to spread the word. And luckily, there's a massive network of people out there who all came together, and I found a top 500 barrister, a really good solicitor, a set of planning consultants, and then another set of planning consultants who've come on board to do an agricultural appraisal, who are all working for us for a retainer of, it's about £200 a month, which is a bit of a heavy, for us, it's quite a lot of money to have to fork out, but they're all there working because they know that this could possibly have really good repercussions for other people getting access to land. So this is really encouraging. We're not alone in this. And the deadline came for us to be out and off, and it went, and nothing really happened. So that was good. But we'll see what happens next. We have certainly put ourselves in a strange situation, and I won't lie to you when I say it's really frightening. And I have felt really troubled and scared. But at the same time, I felt really alive, and felt like I was doing something actually that might make a difference. It might not make a difference, and I might have to go and live at my dad's or something, but at least we will have made moves towards challenging the system, which seems to prevent people getting back to the land. In Wales, they've got the most amazing one planet policy. Everyone's going to live in Wales because in Wales it's easy to get back to the land and practice small-scale agriculture. Not so here in the southeast. We'd like to see some changes. So my team, my top 500 barrister and the other guys they reckoned that there was some good chances. So first of all, they decided to take the local council to judicial review because we prepared a beautiful second planning application, which was sufficiently different from the first to show the planners that we'd taken into consideration their concerns. We submitted the planning application and they roundly ignored it for quite a long time and then said, no, we're declining to determine it. We're not looking at it. So the barrister said, let's take them to judicial review. We went, okay, let's do that then. So he did, and that came back in our favour. And they had to pay our costs, which means they were unlawful in their decision. Yay! Yay! So now we're waiting for them to determine it again, but the letter came last week, actually the week before. Sorry, we're declining, not even sorry, we're declining to determine it again. So now the lawyer is saying, well, that's interesting. They just want to have another judicial review, do they? I don't know what's going on. So I mean, they don't know what to do with us, I don't think, because I think we're making a difference, which is interesting. But it's our necks on the line, and I'm really glad you're all here showing a bit of support. So, yeah, the other thing that's on the books with the legal situation is that we are challenging the inspectorate. That's different to talking to the council. We want to challenge the inspectorate. The inspectorate is the Secretary of State. It's the government. We actually want to challenge the government to say, is this really right? Is this really the right way? Are you doing the right thing here? And that's why we need to raise this crowdfunder, because if it does come back in our face and they say the law is an ass, don't they? I don't know. But if it does come back in our face, we'll have to pay their costs, and that might mean £25,000, and that's why we're raising this buffer fund. But if we did win it and had that money, we could do some amazing things with it. So here we are in 2017. Some people may say we're foolhardy. There's no such thing as self-sufficiency. We're not doing this just to kind of be doing it all on our own. It's all about codependency. We're all in this together. I have in the past been utterly reliant on the supermarkets and the industrial agricultural model. But if we don't want to be reliant on that, what are our options? If we do pay closer scrutiny to the industrial agricultural model, it really reveals that it's destroying the soil, washing it away down the drains quite a lot with these massive, plows. The pesticides, herbicides, contaminants, the fertilizers are, destroying the waterways, and generally life is taking a nosedive. I've been to quite a few meetings. Went to Westminster the other week to the Family Farmers Conference. The National Trust were there. They were talking about the NFU mentioning that there's probably only 100 harvests left if we carry on the way we're going. The NFU, the National Farmers Union, which incidentally is more of a lobbying body, rather than an actual union for farmers. The Campaign for the Protection of Rural England had a great meeting recently where Sussex Wildlife Trust were there, and they were talking about 60% of our invertebrate species are down. 60%. It's like a whole of life is taking a nosedive, So I know you're all here because I'm preaching to the converted, but hopefully we'll reach a wider audience online. Something needs to happen. Our values are completely skewed as a society. We're valuing things to do with money over air quality, soil quality, and water quality. These are the elemental things of life, and we're valuing money over life itself. So, people are like, all you about the birds and the bees, happy, hippie claptrap, namby-pamby nonsense. But if there are no pollinators, you don't eat. No pollinators, you don't eat. We need to be worried about the birds and the bees and the butterflies. I mean, seriously worried. And then last year, I didn't hardly see any insects up at the crossing. I've been there a few years now. Last year was terrible. I didn't see any buzzy stuff. It was like, everyone needs to seriously pay attention to this. We need to do something. So we're all talking about we need to do something about it, but what are we doing? We're trying to do something. We're trying to do something, and we're really getting a lot of hassle and trouble for it. So we want to highlight this and bring it to people's attention. There are lots of other organisations who are doing amazing things. So there's Pasture for Life. You can find out where your meat comes from and find out if it's pasture-fed. There's the Holistic Land Management Movement. There's a Regenerative Agriculture movement, the Restoration Agriculture movement. Mark Shepard in America is doing amazing things. He took 60 acres of old, it had been ploughed for corn for decades. It was dead, completely dead soil, nothing in there. He took 60 acres of it, landscaped it with swales to catch the water, and planted it up with trees, and then got pigs underneath to eat the apples, and got the chickens in, and He's built his soil. He's building his soil. If you leave Mother Nature to it, she can build 2 inches in 100 years or something like that. But we, humans, getting involved with nature, can build soil. I mean, you should come and see up at the crossing. It's on a thick clay. You can't farm on that clay, but we've built the topsoil on it, something like that now. We've only been up there a few years. Like about that. Yeah. So this, we are one, The soil makes good food. The food feeds us. We come alive. We're awake. We can husband the soil better. We can treat the soil better. All life thrives, Biodiversity comes up. And with biodiversity, we have adaptability. And with adaptability, there's resilience. And with resilience, we stand a hope in hell of surviving climate change. This is really hugely, massively, you hear what I'm saying? So, the planning system is a man-made construct. And whilst I respect that we need controls and we don't want people building stuff anywhere willy-nilly, we also need to have the opportunity to get back to the land and husband it properly, correctly, for all life to thrive. And if our planning system is stopping us from doing that, we need to change that human construct. We decided it was going to be like that. We decided for it not to be like that anymore. It's a human construct. Don't need to be frightened of it. I'm more frightened of Mother Nature extinguishing us than I am of a planning system telling me I'm not allowed to do something. I will. Yeah. Because if we had wanted to buy that field and plough it up the wrong way and let all the topsoil wash away and spray it with pesticides and herbicides and let all them wash away down the Medway, that would have been fine. Because you're allowed to do that. There's nothing stopping you doing that. There's something wrong. So yeah, let's look at our values. Let's value soil, water, and air, and value community above land prices and monetary considerations. When I sit at home and think to myself, oh my God, what have you done? What do you think you're doing? And put your family in that situation, and Jesus Christ, Emma, and I worry sometimes, and I get troubled, and then sometimes somebody will write me something like Ruth did this morning. Ruth wrote, I can't make it today, but I think what you're doing is so important to both the local community and the global community. And, sorry, she said, I never got a chance to thank you and let you know how your inspiring cookery sessions helped me through a very difficult period in my life when my husband was so ill. And coming to your sessions each week gave me peace and hope. And that makes me go, oh my God, it's totally all worth it, I gave someone some peace and some hope. Yeah, she says, even though I thought I was dying inside, which a lot of us do feel like we're dying inside sometimes. So she says, thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing from you about your veg boxes, because she wants to join up to the veg scheme. So if any of you would like to join up to the veg scheme, there's only a couple of places left. And there's also some places on the Coop Co-op to come and collect your eggs once a fortnight. Pop up to the crossing, collect your eggs, feed the chickens some scraps. Say hello, have a cup of tea, whatever. And we're also looking for members who are interested in the pig share. I just got a few thank yous. My mother, anti-authoritarian yogurt weaving compost maker. Thanks, Mum. Stuart, thank you so much for supporting me through all my, I know it's a bit mad, isn't it, babe? Yeah. Thank you. My children, who are my biggest teachers, my Billy Blue, my biggest helpers, my biggest teachers, who are sometimes a bit neglected because I'm pulled in so many directions. The community of Forest Row, who are so out there and welcoming, have just been amazing. All the volunteers and woofers, without whom it would be impossible, all the members of the existing CSA, the Community Supported Agriculture Scheme, and the members who've been in the Coop Co-op before. I want to thank Simon Fairley and Jyoti Fernandez, who are part of the land base movement, and they also front the Land Workers Alliance, which I'd like to tell you a little bit about after we've had a look at these films. Jay Abrahams of Biologic Design, who helped me design it and create the swales. He's an amazing geezer, Biologic Design. Ed Reville, who built the biochar stove, which is an amazing piece of kit. I urge you all to come up and have a look at it, that makes the biochar and keeps us warm and gives us hot water. I want to thank Luna Magdalena, who has made our films with us and who's so generously given so much of her time. Adeline Garman, without whom I'd be utterly lost on this crowdfunding thing. And the band, Eighth Wonder, who are going to play for us later on. So shall we watch these little films so you can see Luna's work? So yeah, that was a bit of fun that we hope to attract some of the younger members of the population with, but we have made another couple of films that are more describing the whole caboodle. Just before the band plays, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Land Workers Alliance, who are working on our behalf to lobby Parliament. I just want to briefly give you some hope and tell you about an amazing organisation called the Land Workers Alliance. They are the British arm of La Via Campesina, which is the biggest union of farmers in the world with over 200 million members. And we are a member as well, so that's great. So there's a whole heap of people out there who are supporting us. What are we going to do post-Brexit about our food production? You know, in the 1980s, we supplied probably 80% of our food. 70% of our food. It's below 50 now, below 50%. We need to get on it. And what about the £3 billion worth of common agricultural policy money that comes into the UK every year? Well, 80% of that goes to landowners and farmers, and many of them survive on it for their income. Many farmers are surviving on the common agricultural policy money that comes in. What's going to happen to that post-Brexit? Lots of landowners get a lot of that money, even though they're not even farming their land. That's interesting, isn't it? And then if you're farming on below 15 hectares, which we are, you don't get a penny. What's going on? We need to sort it out, people. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. Nothing to worry about, but, you know, just be aware. So the Land Workers Alliance are working really hard to lobby Parliament, and they're right in there. They're even rubbing shoulders with the guys who know how to lobby at the NFU and getting the gen on how to do it. And they're working so hard. So if any of you would like to join the Land Workers Alliance, only £20 a year, and I highly recommend it because they're really looking out for the soil, for us, for health, for wisdom, and to let all life thrive. May I introduce to you now, just to have a bit of fun and let loose, push the chairs back a little bit, I think we should, because I'm going to certainly kick up my heels because I'm all adrenalized. And this is the beautiful band, the Eighth Wonder, Ceilidh Band Extraordinaire.
We need another name.
Oh, they're not being called that anymore. They're going to get another name. Any suggestions? Put it in a box. Anyway, it's a Ceilidh Band. Enjoy. Lots of love and thanks for coming. Bye.